Welcome to the Academy, cadets. I am Grand Admiral Horath Drak, and I will teach you how to rule a galactic empire. When you graduate, you will know how to colonize a planet, build up your economy, design your ships, win wars, and everything else the Academy thinks you should know. There's a lot to talk about, so shut up and listen. And you two fools in the backbenches, drop down and give me 20. I do not care who you are, I just care about how much you know when you leave this place. Well, let's get to it. Let's talk about something that is new to Stellaris with 2.2, and that is trade value. If you're not playing a machine empire or a hive mind, then your pops will produce trade value. All your inhabited planets, there can also be some trade value, some sort of valuables found out in space. We'll talk about that in a bit. But every planet has this trade value over here. The amount of pops that you have on there is producing just like a certain amount of trade value on its own. And then you also have jobs that pops can work that create some trade value. And then there are some modifiers applied, like having high stability. We're getting something for being xenophile. We have something because we're free traders, that is one of our civics. And these clerk jobs over here are also producing quite a bit. So from the commercial zones, we have that built from the beginning because we are a Megacorporation in this one. The city districts do provide you with some clerks. Now, what is trade value good for? You can, if you move on to the policies over here, see in the trade policy what is actually happening with your trade. And the standard for that is wealth creation, which means every point of trade value earns you 1 energy credit, which is quite nice. This is not being applied at the start of the game, so we're actually a lot more positive in energy credits than you think we would be. And this is kind of nice because you can switch to the other trade policies and not drop horribly into the negative. So you can also choose going for consumer benefits, or you go for marketplace of ideas. In this case, you only get half the trade value in energy credits and then a certain amount in consumer goods or a certain amount in Unity, which is also kind of useful. If we just let this run over here, we should be able to see the trade value being applied once the month ticks over. Yep, and there it is. So we've jumped up to 26 now, getting a bunch of additional trade value. This is pretty nice. And yeah, with that income, you probably want to collect as much of that trade value as possible because it is just money in your pocket. Now let's talk about how we do that. There are 2 sources for trade value in the game. One is the planets with all the pops and the people on there creating the trade value, and the second is from stellar objects in your systems. So in the Anachronis system, we have 8 trade value, 4 on each of these ice asteroids, but we cannot collect them. Contrary to other resources where you can just build a mining station like we're doing over here for those minerals, you actually have to have an upgraded station in the system. Outposts won't do, like this one. This one is doing nothing for us because it's just a basic outpost. Instead, you have to have an upgraded station like I have over here in the Zempec system. Now you can see we're collecting that trade value. These are green and the other ones were white. We're collecting from these ice asteroids. It is impractical though to have an upgraded station in every system that has trade value. So this is where the trade hubs come in. For each trade hub on a station, the station can collect 1 hyperjump further away. So with 1, I can just collect from these 3 systems, so Whiter, Konagi, and Chatib, where if I were to claim that for my empire. And then with a second one, I will also be able to collect from the Anachronis system. A third one would give me this trade value. A fourth one will give me that one, up to a maximum of 6 when you put trade hubs in all the module slots. You have to protect those and you have to send that trade value back to your capital, and that's what we're going to talk about now, because all this trade needs to be funneled back into our capital system. So this is our empire a couple of years later, and as you can see, we're collecting all the trade value from our space. If I turn on the details map mode, you see that we're collecting it from the Anachronis system, those 2 ice asteroids, we're collecting it from here, everywhere is being collected. And if we look into the trade routes map mode, you can see how we're doing it. So we're sending all the trade value via these blue areas into our trade capital, and that is the only way that you can actually profit from trade value. Now if we look into one of these trade hubs over here, or into one of those stations, you see incoming trade routes are bluish and outgoing trade is yellowish or orange. And you can fine-tune how you want the trade to flow by just right-clicking on the station where you want to send it. So for example, I could decide to, instead of sending the trade from here to the Imperial shipyards, I could send it directly to Eye of Horath. It would go through the same thing. I could also send it to over here to the Jazzmax system first, through a bunch of other systems, and then have it flow from here into there. This way you can fine-tune the flow of your trade to maybe get around some weird or dangerous systems. Maybe you have a Leviathan in there, or maybe Marauders, something like that happened to me in the YouTube series. So this is good to know that you can fine-tune the trade flow. Now let's check the whole trade system again, and as you can see, not all of these are at 100% efficiency. In the Imperial shipyards, like from Imperial shipyards to Eye of Horath, we're actually losing a bunch of trade value. We're only getting 91%, and that is because in here piracy is pretty great. There's nothing really suppressing the pirates in that area, and that will also lead to pirate fleets spawning at some point. So you can see we're currently losing 3.21 in terms of trade value over there. There's no real effect of the piracy in these areas for now, but we're definitely losing some trade value over here, and that is nasty. We don't want that. So I'm going to present you with the solution to this problem. So what's the solution to this problem? If you look into the trade routes, you see that the problem is solved. We're no longer losing any trade value coming from Imperial shipyards. 100% of it is reaching our main planet, and we're doing this with some modules on our stations. So let's check that real quick. What I have put on these is hangar bays. So hangar bays are really good at protecting your trade. They're twice as effective as missile batteries or gun batteries. You see these have a trade protection of 5 each, and hangar bays have a trade protection of 10, which is pretty nice. And the more of these you have, you can see they have a protection range. So the more of them you have, the further you project that trade protection. And with a couple of strategically placed hangar bays, you're going to be able to protect all the trade in your empire to the point where the pirates won't even be able to make a dent in your income. You can still have, like, the piracy will grow if trade value is greater than the piracy suppression in here, but the piracy will not be able to make any effects on this because we have a protection of 44 and 2 from the starbase. So this is never going to make any dent into our income, and with that the pirates are like completely nullified. They can still look menacing, but there's really nothing that they can do. So over here we have a trade route value of 4, we have a max piracy of 1, the current piracy is 1, but there's still no piracy effect because a bunch of star bases are actually protecting a ton more trade value than is flowing through the system. Now the other thing that you can do if you don't want to invest in those hangar bays, I strongly recommend it, but if you don't want to do that, you can also use your fleets to patrol your trade routes. And the way that is done is select your fleet, click on the patrol button, and now left click on the system that you want them to patrol to. These guys are in Imperial shipyards. If I left click on Eye of Horath over here, they're going to start moving out of the system, and smaller ships are better at protecting trade than bigger ones, so corvettes or destroyers are ideal for this task. As you can see, I'm going to go up in the speed here. Watch what happens once that fleet reaches that system. So current piracy 5.50, it's still going up because the trade value is greater there, and as the fleet reaches the system, there's no more piracy. They're in there, they're eradicating the piracy. And if you have a couple of fleets doing that in your space, you can go to 0 piracy, but they don't have any effect at this point in any case, so it would definitely be a waste to have my fleet patrolling instead of using it for something, or even just having it in orbit of one of my stations. So I like the hangar system a lot more, the hangar way of suppressing piracy, just because it frees up your fleets. If I have to have a fleet of corvettes just patrolling through my space and I get attacked or anything, then I send my fleets out to counter the attack, and then I'm going to lose a bunch of trade value because the pirates are going to pop up. So I'd rather just set it up in a way that it is automated and I don't have to think about it anymore. A new diplomatic action that has to do with trade has been introduced with 2.2, and that is the commercial pact. So you can form a commercial pact with every empire that does have trade value, so not with robots, not with hive minds, but with other organic empires. And to do that, you go to your Diplo tab. You cannot do it with people that have rivaled you or that you are rivaling, But this is the option. So form commercial pact. These guys are not going to agree to it for various reasons. Maybe you should do some diplomacy with them or something. So if we go on here, we'll see what we're going to get. We'll get some energy credits because they seem to be on the normal energy credits trading policy, and they will get some energy credits and some unity because we're using the unity trading policy, and they will get 10% of our trade value. So we're making 75.60 from trade, so they're getting about 7.5, and we're making 22.68 from our trade in terms of unity, so they get 2.24. It's not exact values. I'm not quite sure how these things work, but it is roughly 10%, and we're getting 10% of their trade value. Now we're paying influence for this, so in general it's not worth it just for the energy credits or whatever you're getting from them, unless it's a huge empire with a gigantic trade network. You probably want to use that influence in some other form or fashion, but it will allow you to grow your trust. So I've recently gone for one with these guys, and the commercial pact alone will allow your trust to go up to 50, which is quite nice if you're trying to prepare one of your neighbors for maybe forming a federation with them, or non-aggression pact or defensive pact, something like that. So it is like part of the diplomatic toolkit that you have. I'm really glad that that is now in the game. And if you make a commercial pact with a mega corporation, then they can build corporate buildings on your planets. I'm just going to show you how that works too. So let's talk about the Megacorporation side of commercial pacts. This is a save game from my Church of the Brain Slugs YouTube series, and we have a commercial pact with our neighbor, the Helvan Confederation. You can see over here we have a commercial pact, and we have a bunch of branch offices in their space. Each planet can only have one branch office, so currently it's ours over here. If our neighbor, the Megacorporation, were to establish branch offices over here, we could attack them for their branch offices on the planet with the hostile takeover casus belli, and take over their branch offices. So these branch offices, for each 25 pops, you get an additional building slot. You can put up to 4 buildings on there. You get some resource production on this, depending on the buildings that you have, and depending on the trade value of the planet. That plays a pretty big role. Now, a lot of these buildings are very mutually beneficial for both the owner of the planet and yourself. So if we put the amusement megaplex on here, it produces 10 energy for us, just the people spending the money, and it gives them 10 amenities. So it makes their planet better. This will give them a merchant job, which produces amenities and trade value, and boosts our branch office value by 25%. So normally all these buildings are mutually beneficial. This will give me 10 minerals and them a miner job, which then also gives them more minerals. The only thing that is not mutually beneficial are either criminal syndicates, which is a subset of megacorporations that profit more the more crime there is on a planet, which is something that you do not want, so probably want to get rid of those. And we are a mega church, and therefore we have access to the Temple of Prosperity, which boosts spiritualist ethics attraction by 50%. That might be something that you want if you're a spiritualist empire already, or want to shift your ethics. But if you are not a spiritualist empire and you don't want to become one, then this can cause some problems. So before you enter into a commercial pact with a mega corporation, go to the diplomatic screen and actually look what they have in terms of civics. So these guys, for example, just a pretty normal mega corporation. You can just let them in and let them boost your planets in various ways, have some additional jobs, have some additional trade value, and just have like a symbiotic thing going. You've reached the end of this lecture. Well done, Cadet. If you found it really helpful, leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section so I can answer them. If you want to learn more, consider subscribing to this channel. And if you found it really helpful and want to support me doing more of this, then consider becoming my patron on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you in one of my other videos. Cheers!